I'd say whooping cough has devastated our family, that it seems to have just come out of nowhere, and we had a very healthy, beautiful little baby for 4 weeks, and then after 5 days in hospital we had a dead daughter. And for us it has been a journey of shock about what this disease can do. We saw the ferocity of the cough, how violent it was, how every part of her body was shuddering with it. That's when we started thinking, well, why don't people know that this is what something called whooping cough can actually do? Why don't people know how vaccination works? Why don't adults know that they need a booster?
You cough and cough so much with full-blown whooping cough that you basically can't catch your breath, and that's the whoops that because you have to catch your breath at the end of so much coughing. And in fact, adults can cough so much that they can fracture a rib, and of course children can cough so much that their blood vessels in their eyes burst. But what we're really worried about is the tiny babies who are too young to be immunised.
She was born perfectly healthy, full term. We brought her home and she was a very healthy little baby, feeding well. Putting on weight. And I think the most heartbreaking thing for us has been that it is easily preventable, and we never got that chance to protect her.
Huh?
Any wise words for your third born?
Don't date till you're 30.
The best protection against whooping cough remains being vaccinated, and even though the vaccine isn't perfect, it certainly prevents severe disease, and of course severe disease is what we're most keen to avoid. The first dose is 2 months, although it's recently been recommended that you can bring that back to 6 weeks to get in as early as possible. Then it's 4 months, then it's 6 months.
Now that arm goes behind you, there.
The next dose has been at 4 years of age, and we've recently recommended bring that back to 3.5 because we've been seeing more children getting whooping cough in that kind of 3-year age group. And then the next time you get the vaccine currently is as a teenager, somewhere between the ages of 11 and about 15, depending on which state you're in. No matter what happens, you get the illness, you get the vaccine, it can wane and you can be susceptible again.
Tell me about the thinking around immunising pregnant mothers.
There's been interest in this for a long time, and just of more recent times, I guess, with the new vaccines which are associated with, fairly minimal side effects, and we've been recommending adults be immunised, it was a fairly natural step to look again at the possibility that if you could give the vaccine to mothers just before the baby was born, the baby would have high levels of antibodies from the mother and would be protected in that vital sort of month or two where when we get deaths, that's when we're getting them. We're getting them in those really young babies before 2 months of age. We don't have, information from 100,000 women or even from 1,000 women to definitely show that it prevents your baby dying of whooping cough, but we certainly have strong reasons to suspect that, if you're born to a mother with high antibody levels and you've had high antibody levels passed on to you from your mother, that you will be protected at least for a couple of months, and I guess until you can get that vital first or second dose of the childhood vaccine in.
I had 2 very excited older siblings and a loving family around her. We do not know how she caught it, and it, haunts us on a daily basis.
Unfortunately, whooping cough and all the issues related to it was something we were not aware of until she died.
With whooping cough, there's these sort of 3 classic phases. There's what's called the catarrhal phase, which is where it's basically like a cold, and then at some point that moves into the start of a cough, and then the cough gets progressively worse. And the reason you know it's whooping cough is because it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And if you have something like asthma as well or some other chest trouble, you can potentially be coughing for months and months.
If it starts like any other sniffle, then how do you identify it?
Well, you can't at the beginning, but what should, I guess, raise your suspicion is if you know that there's a lot of whooping cough around, particularly if you know you've been in contact with someone who has a cough, and particularly if you're the parent of a very young baby, then even very minimal symptoms would be enough to get tested and be concerned. But normally, of course, you can't really tell until you get something which is a bit more obvious. We've discovered particularly adults can actually be carrying the whooping cough bug and never get a cough. If you want to protect your baby, and thinking particularly of young babies, what you can do at the moment is ensure your baby gets their first dose of vaccine as soon as possible, so that's 6 weeks, and ensure that they get their next doses on time. And ensure that you, as the mother, the father, if you're visiting the grandparents, and if you're having babysitters or other people in close contact with the child, the best thing you can do at the moment to protect them is to ensure that you and all the other people in close contact are also immunised.